Now, Coops, often I reckon sometimes attitude and desire is best illustrated by the loose ball on the ground scenario. Like, right, who's got the desperation, who's got the desire to come up with that ball? Sometimes when there's feet in the way and everything like that. And I just thought in the first half, just on half-time, Appy Coruscant, I think that desperation he got in the loose possession typified the Tigers' fight. Yep. And then to get off the ground and then set up a try 2 plays later, yep. it was pretty special.
And it was sort of significant because it was Coruscant versus Hines. The 2 best players of both teams, the most influential players on the ground, ballers on the deck. Coruscant gets it and Olam scores, makes it 18-6 before half-time. But it's funny you say that because Mel used to make us dive on loose balls in the warm-up for Origin captain's runs. He'd throw the ball around, even if it's wet, he'd be like, dive on it, get dirty, get down. So, yeah, it played a huge part, and I thought I enjoyed watching the Tigers win. They're coming from a low base, but they played a good brand of footy, and I loved what Coruscant did.
And Coop, look, last year when they were playing great football in the middle of the season, they played like they did the other night. Yep. They simplified their attack and they centralised the attack. And they made the focal point of the whole team, Appy Coruscant. You know, Appy, you know, his effort through the middle of last year really was one of the things that kickstart Luke Brooks.
Yep.
And I just thought the other night, I don't think you'll ever see Appy play a better game.
And I think the number one indicator when the dummy half plays well is I think the front rowers do a good job. Your middle forwards are dominant. I thought Uto Kamano was good, Fano off the bench, and they just added some spark. Olam, for his first game for the Tigers, he was brilliant.
You know what I like about Olam is the fact that
terrifying.
As a defensive centre, he carries consequence. Yeah. So as you know, Coop, if you're a playmaker and you're going to the line, there's going to be consequences if you make a bad pass decision to a teammate. You could be really putting your teammate in harm's way.
Yeah, I remember sort of having that double look at someone like Steve Maddai at Manly at different stages because they'll get it wrong. But when they get it right,
that's right.
Geez, it hurts and it helps their team.
You make an enemy of a teammate.
Yeah, and as a ball player too, if you feel like you're second guessing yourself, someone like Olam just being super aggressive coming in, it can actually stifle your attack. So yeah, I thought he was good. He was strong defensively, but he was even better with the ball in hand.
And I like the way Coruscant plays. Is he encourages everyone around him to play more direct. Like I thought Jareem Buller, like once the momentum started, he can pop up all over the field, but he was willing to get behind that ruck. Yeah. Aidan Caesar, even early in the game, Appy got forward and he took the following play and made 20 metres up through the middle. Yeah. So I thought Aidan Caesar was really good. Yeah. He was really polished, thought he kicked well.
Yeah, ballsy decision from Aidan Caesar. So he left the NRL after 2019, goes overseas. COVID hit, the game changes a lot.
Yep.
When he left the NRL, he wasn't like an elite halfback game. He was solid. He got Canberra to a grand final. And then he comes back when the game's changed a lot. He comes back to the team that's got back-to-back wooden spoons.
Yep.
And he gets dropped the first week. Benji Marshall went with Sullivan in front of him, put Caesar on the bench, brings him in for his first game to start. And he did exactly what he was brought to do. He kicked really well. He was the organising half. He just took... young Loy Galvin, created space for him. You know, Jareem Buller was sort of in positions that he needed to be, and he put it all together.
And the good thing for Benji is that style of football, that simplified, centralised football, it's proven it works. It proved last year it works. You know, what hurt him last year was Appy got injured, and then suddenly Brooks and their season sort of went off the rails straight away again. But there they are, they're playing the other night and went back to that style of football. That's the formula.
Yeah.
You know, that's a very important thing for Benji.
And I liked seeing the Tigers win. I loved seeing this team song. But on the other side of the field, the Sharks were bad, right?
Yep.
So what are the Tigers going to do to get off the bottom of the ladder when they've played teams that aren't bad? Is that style of football where they go punch for punch and try and play conservative, is that going to be enough to beat the better teams or win a lot of games to get them off the bottom? That's going to be the thing for Benj.
And I suppose, Coops, it's how good you get at that style of football. Yep. Like, you know, they'll look at the video and say, geez, we've still got a way to go here, there and that. But if they can make that, if they can really become effective at that style of football, then because what it did, that simplified style of football produced far less errors, which put far less pressure on the defence.
Yeah, and we marvel at what Penrith do, right? But watch their game without looking at all the cool stuff. They actually do a very simple approach. They defend well, their completion rate's great, their king game is elite. They do all that thing every week and then they can add the cool stuff on top. For the Tigers, they need to build that foundation for a lot longer for them to then start adding some stuff on top. But I like your point. Coruscant is absolutely the key.
Mate, 22-6 it was Panthers over the Tigers, but I tell you what, a lot to like both performances. Thought Tigers, in a lot of aspects, were unlucky. The ankle tap from Olin from Schneider was a sin bin every day of the week. Sousa called back for a knock-on. It was a knock-on. He and Buller were on their way. Maybe they score, maybe they don't, but they pulled it back. He challenged. The damage was already done, even though the challenge was successful. And Penrith, they win again without Nathan. Loy Galvin continues to impress, like young Katoa. I thought, I liked the fact he's starting to form combinations. I thought he and John Bateman on that left-hand side were really dangerous. And what you got there is two natural footballers, old-fashioned type footballers, and you got Bateman, who's so unorthodox. It was a shame Bateman, through the injury, had to move to the other side. But also he and Sousa forming good combinations. The first try, Aiden Sousa takes the line on, makes a dent, goes through, plays the ball quick. Rather than resetting, Galvin just goes bang up the short side, passes it out wide, leads to a try. Good footballer, Galvin.
I think for Galvin's development, he looks like a good kid, right? Like I've spoken to him a couple of times and fit as a fiddle, so he's got the work ethic. And for his development, and Benji Marshall know this, whether he plays with Bateman or plays with... I think he needs to have multiple different back rows because if you just play with a guy that likes it early, it stifles your development as a ball player. If you just play with a straight line back row, you'll be good at that, but then you won't be able to finesse the ball sideways. So mix up his development, whether it's in the game or at training, mix it up so he's got to work with different types of back rows. That's probably the key for him.
They've got a good one there. Benji. Have you spoke to Benji?
I've spoken to him a little bit. Obviously, I spoke to him when he was in Fiji. Like he said, mate, I give him a heads up, they're coming after you. Look, he's a different cat to what other coaches are. He's not a Craig Bellamy, Des Hasler, a million-mile, 25 hours, 7 days a week coach.
Yeah.
He likes to have that little bit of a luxury. It's the way he played. Like, he's a gambler. Like, he doesn't just go and... he'll have his setups. Like, he's got his foundation of what he wants to do, but he'll always risk it. Those type of blokes. Look, to say he's a little bit frustrated, I think he wouldn't want 10 losses in a row, Matty. Like, it'd be killing him. He's a competitor. Like, he's not just a bloke that sort of just goes through the motions and comes up with his flick pass. He used to practice that non-stop at trainer. Like, he was huge on those. Like, we had little games where it would bring his style into play. Like, he'd be absolutely ropeable with losing, but I just think it's the little parts of his games, like, of what he's trying to coach these boys. Like, I watched on the weekend and, they were told to offload, but they tried to offload at absolutely every opportunity. And there was one moment, they made sort of a little line break down the left edge early in the game, and Samuela Fainu on play one tries to flick it back in when the Dragons are at 6s and 7s.
Yes. It's funny, the message. When you've got a young team, you say, right, let's kind of play a bit of football. What that message the young players get, for them, that's... For a lot of young players, that's the licence to start to do these ones, and and they're not a football side that can do that. They haven't got the quality to be able to. Well, their defence is not good enough, Woodsy, to absorb the errors that sort of football brings. I think what's really, I reckon, important for the Tigers is just a little ticker of mindset. Watching how they played against the Dragons, they obviously went out there, full credit to them, to say we're going to get out there, we're going to win this game, we're going to go at them. When you say, boys, we need to win this game, we're going to win. For younger players, that's pressure. Right? To focusing on the scoreboard and trying to win. If I was Benji, I'd just change the mindset. I'll just say, boys, right, let's sit in the room. Right? We're going to make our side a really hard side to play against and a hard side to beat. And that's a different mindset. I want to talk about a young bloke who I love as a footballer. He's an old-fashioned ball player. He reminds me a lot of Wade Graham when he first came through. That's Loy Galvin.
Big body,
What's going on? What is the manager playing silly buggers here?
I feel for him because he's still got 2 years left on his contract, Matty. So for me, if I'm the club, I'm digging my heels in because this kid's got. I believe he's going to be a talent.
Yep.
You know, and if he wants to learn to be a 5'8", he's got one of the best 5'8s of all time as his head coach.
Yep.
I know you're in a tough period where you're losing. It's Benji's first ever coaching gig, so he's still going to learn. They're both learning themselves. But what for me is Benji's shown a lot of faith in him. You know, he's elevated him straight to the starting spot from round one. You're going to have moments in your career. You know what it's like, Matty. The best thing is experience on the field.
Of course it is.
And he's only played 10 games. Like, just cool your jets a little bit.
Spot on. Woodsy, my advice to him, and look, you know, he's a young guy, and I understand losing hurts.
Yeah.
But, mate, don't be that guy.
No.
Not at this point,
Mate,
you know.
I've been through this experience before. Like, I was off contract. You know, I didn't have years remaining in my contract, and I sort of, you know, I took an option to go elsewhere. Lucky, the grass isn't always greener on the other side. I had the worst 12 months of my life. I wasn't ready for what was going to come, like scrutiny from the media, you know, the perception that was, like, people didn't know the full story.
Yep.
But clubs just relay the message that they want out there, which could be at the moment, he could be getting a different message from his manager to what the Tigers is bringing in.
Yep.
And then the other thing, the worst thing for me was when the fans booed me at the game. And this kid's 18. I was 26 at the time. I would hate for him to go through that period because it sucked. There was nothing worse, Matty. You know, you're out there busting your backside and fans are booing you and they go, number 8, Captain
What club was that? Was that
Bulldogs?
Was that the Bulldogs?
Yeah.
Gotcha.
It really hurts. Like, so this was Tigers. When I was leaving Tigers to go to Dogs, yeah.
Okay.
And I hadn't even made my decision up yet.
Yeah.
So God knows what the Tigers fans are going through at the moment, you know. And for me, if they let this kid go, this could be another huge setback and could put him back 5 years.
And the thing about it is for Lockie, at this, and I know this sounds strange, for Lockie at this point in his career, it's not about wins.
No.
It's about experience. And I'll tell you this, Woodsy, I think he'll learn a lot more from what he's a part of at the moment than him just strolling into a top 4 side.
Yeah. But like, little thing for you at the moment, Matty, like, I'll watch him. I love the Tigers. I love still watching them.
Yeah.
I think at the moment, he's a kid playing first grade. And you know, like when you have set up plays, you got to play direct, you got to play straight. A lot of the times, Lockie runs across field, comes back, just creeping for a space.
Yep.
NRL, you don't just get that one space just from crabbing across field. You got to break teams down, and that's what he needs to learn.
Yep.
And mate, if he can learn how to break teams down, mate, I honestly believe he could be a factor with Tigers, you know, coming up the ladder by far.
Yes. Well, I mean, the cavalry's on the way. Jerome.
Yep.
Loy goes next
I'd love
year.
to see him with him.
And that's right. Like, it's almost like, okay, I understand, Lockie. I understand what you're going through.
Yep.
You're a kid that's had a lot of success as schoolboy football, and now all of a sudden you're fulfilling a dream, but you're on the end of a lot of floggings. I understand how hard that is, but just hang in there, mate.
Mate, Jerome
just hang in.
He did it at Penrith. They had some lean years early on.
They did.
Remember when Ivan first went back there?
Yep.
They didn't even make the 8.
Yeah,
they finished right down the bottom. So he could teach him, and he's been a 5'8" for how long, Jerome? Like the last 8 years. He could teach him the best aspects because you see now, when Jerome has to control a game, I reckon that's when he's playing better.
He does. He enjoys the responsibility.
They can complement each other.
Well, I think there's I think part of the reason he went to the Tigers is he wants to stand up on his own accord and say, hey, look at me, I'm a great player here. I've stepped out of this great system, but look at me go. And he'd be encouraged now looking at Stephen Crichton.
And then that's what Lockie has got to think in his head, well, I've got this great player coming. Taruva's coming as well. He's been a good system. You know, I could learn so much of these blokes.
Who you learn off too? Harry Grant.
Oh.
Where Harry went, let's remember, he struck behind Cameron Smith.
Yep.
And they struck that deal, and he went to the Tigers, righto? And Tigers, they haven't, you know, when Harry's there, inconsistencies, again, mate, he just busted his ass the whole time. And I don't think Tigers fans will ever forget what he did for that club and how hard he fought.
No way. And then the other thing, it's the experience that he's learnt being in that sort of a side to what Melbourne's is, the different systems. Mate, I reckon actually both parties got so much out of it.
Yep.
Him, and he played with Benji at that period of time too, so he got to play with another great player that he's seen a lot of time. And then going back to Melbourne and saying, well, this is what didn't work, this is what did work at Tigers, and then taking those little experiences to Melbourne.
Good on Benji.
Yep.
Had a tough run. He must have been going, where's this win? And that's what Coops, and this is a great thing for Benji, for him personally, is there is a saying which is true. A coach doesn't know what type of coach he's going to be until he's in a long losing run, and he's going, "How the hell am I going to get out of this?" And at the moment, they've got out of it.
I'll tell you what type of coach Benji is. He's going to be the same as he was a player. Their first set after half-time. This is a team that's up 18-12. They shift the ball on the third play and they do this. It was Caesar, it was getting the ball back across, Galvin, Buller, all the guys involved, and they score a try literally at the third play of the second half. This is a team that has lost 9 games, won last week, then do this in the second half. Like, me as a halfback, I'd be conservative, get into the rhythm of the game and kick it out. And the thing with Benji is he's all risk, all reward, and wanted them to play exactly the same way that they did in the first half in the second. The danger part for this, there's going to be high highs and low lows with the Tigers because Penrith aren't going to let you strip down the side of the field off the third play. The good defensive teams will tackle Buller, force him back, and then you'll be on the back foot to start the second half. So I think you're going to get a bit of like good performance, bad performance, and that's going to be the inconsistency.
And Coops, they can't play that way.
They
can't go into that way and say, right, we're going to play that way for 80 minutes.
You can't be full throttle the whole time. And there's the development of Galvin to a point, but when to hit the accelerator, when not, when to go and shift the ball wide, when to complete the sets, and he will get there. That's his 11th game. But I'll tell you what, it was a very impressive performance. There's something about when the Tigers win, it's actually good for the game.
Coops,
I mean, like, it was enjoyable.
It's a great working class club. It's got a huge supporter base. Yeah, one of the things I really liked about watching, there was elements with Dewey coming into the side. There was elements of what the Bulldogs have been doing. That through the field, there was Caesar, there was Galvin, there was Dewey. So you had a number of players who could chip in and do a little bit of everything. And it allowed them just to have a little bit more edge in attack, able to move the football. But like we said before, when they went in, very much a mindset. They can't let the end of that game get mixed up with the start of next week. When they played the Dragons, you could see that they're going, right, let's get out there and really push the ball around. And they're just not good enough side to do that for the 80 minutes. They can do it for a period, but then they got to revert back.
And I like that on that left edge, Sam Fainu, the back rower. Like, when you talk about you want to see green shoots, Galvin, Fainu and Buller at the back, there's a bit of an option there as a ball player you can lean on and go to that. So if the Tigers are to score points, I think that left side through that 3-player combination might be their go-to.
Look, what went wrong before we get to that? We'll talk generally before we get to that last game. They just didn't quite have the experience or the confidence in key positions to win consistently. Last performance, Coop, was a shocker. It was. I'd hope that they were embarrassed by it because Coop, in that month leading up to that last game, there was a real great feeling about the Tigers. The fans were turning up, everyone was excited. You got Loy coming and Taruva and so on, and I couldn't believe what they served up in that last game.
Yeah, Craig Bell always used to say, at this time of year, good and bad habits show up. So if you've improved and got more good habits, then your good footy kicks in. If your bad habits there, the Tigers for me playing against the Parramatta Eels, who conceded 5 tries in the last 10 minutes the week before. All the Tigers needed to do was be disciplined and make their tackles and hold on to the ball, and they would have run through the Parramatta Eels at some stage. But what they did, Coruscant got sin-binned, they turned over errors, they were flamboyant from the start, and Galvin is the shining light, but if you're investing a lot of time, like we did about the Dolphins, in young kids in key positions to make all the decisions in a game, you're going to have a lot of learnings as opposed to good times. That was one of the more disappointing performances of the season overall.
Some of the worst defensive efforts I've ever seen.
Oh,
well, for the Tigers and those other sides, 2025 will come around pretty quick, but looking forward to this week, Coops.